Okay, so first video, huh? Allah's creation. What a great idea for a YouTube channel.
It is, yeah. They
And
call it
kicking it off with water.
perfect. Perfect place to start.
I mean, what's more fundamental to life than water, right?
Exactly. It's literally the elixir of life.
So how do we dive into this, for the video? How do we get that sense of awe and wonder across?
Well, I think starting with the Quran is essential,
Makes sense.
to really highlight water as like a divine blessing.
Yeah, okay, so what verses are we thinking?
Well, Surah Al-Anbiya 21.3, that's a powerful one.
Okay, 21.30, got it.
It explicitly states that Allah created every living thing from water.
Wow. Every living thing. That's incredible.
It really is.
Just this one simple molecule.
Right. H2O, the building block of life.
60% of our bodies are made of it.
And it's involved in pretty much every bodily function.
So, what happens if we don't get enough?
Well, dehydration sets in, and
Yeah.
that can have some pretty serious consequences.
Like, how serious are we talking?
I mean, we can only survive a few days without water.
Really? Just a few days?
Yeah, it's that vital.
Wow. I mean, it's amazing how much we depend on something we often take for granted.
It really is.
But it's not just about us, right? Plants need water too.
Oh, absolutely.
So how much are we talking?
Some plants are up to 90% water.
90%. That's wild.
I know, right?
And it's not just, for survival.
Right.
It's actively involved in photosynthesis.
Exactly.
I mean, I know plants need water, but what's the actual connection there?
Well, remember when we talked about those hydrogen bonds?
Mm-hmm.
Those bonds are crucial in photosynthesis.
Really? I never made that connection.
Yeah, so during photosynthesis, water molecules split, providing the electrons needed to power the process.
Oh, I see. So it's like the fuel.
Exactly.
Oh, that's incredible.
Plus, water transports nutrients throughout the plant, keeps its structure firm.
Mm-hmm.
It even helps regulate the plant's temperature.
Like a multitasker.
It really is.
So is there anything in the Quran about this? About plants and water?
There is, actually. Surah An-Nahl 16.011, Allah talks about sending down water from the sky for vegetation to grow.
That's amazing. It's like this whole system, This perfectly orchestrated system where every element plays a role.
I like that. Yeah, a perfectly orchestrated system.
And of course, we can't forget about animals.
Oh, of course not. They rely on water just as much as humans and plants.
So what's water's role in the animal kingdom?
Well, think about it. Digestion, temperature regulation, and for aquatic species, it's their habitat.
That's right. I mean, oceans, rivers, lakes, they're all teeming with life because of water.
Exactly.
It really is this, incredible gift, this multifaceted gift that sustains all life on Earth.
And the Quran emphasizes this repeatedly, highlighting water as a blessing from Allah.
So it's not just about the science.
No, it's also about the spiritual significance.
And there are quite a few verses about that.
Oh, definitely.
So, what verses are we talking about?
Well, you mentioned Surah Al-Anbiya 21.30 and Surah An-Nahl 16.10 and 11.
Uh-huh.
There's also Surah Al-Ra'd 13.17, Surah Al-Fatir 35.12, and even descriptions of rivers flowing in paradise in Surah Al-Insan 76.18.
Wow. So it's not just about water in this world.
No, it's also about water in the hereafter.
Amazing.
It really shows how the Quran approaches water from both a scientific and a spiritual perspective.
Yeah, that's a great point. It doesn't just describe the function.
Right?
It elevates it to this, divine symbol.
Exactly.
The life and sustenance.
Mm-hmm. That connection between the scientific and the spiritual could be really powerful in your video.
Totally. I mean, that's exactly the kind of awe and wonder I want to get across.
Absolutely.
And, another thing that's, super fascinating is how the Quran describes the water cycle.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It's like a blueprint for how water is constantly renewed,
Yeah.
Circulated on our planet.
Mm-hmm.
So, what verses are we talking about here?
You're talking about verses like Surah Al-Hajj 22.63, Surah Ar-Rum 30.48, and Surah Al-Zukhruf 43.11, right?
Yeah, those are the ones.
The way they describe rain coming down from the sky, bringing life back to the land.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful and accurate depiction of the water cycle.
It really is. Evaporation, condensation, precipitation, those key stages are all right there in the Quran.
Absolutely.
And what's amazing is how it highlights the balance and the precision involved in the whole process.
Right, like in Surah Al-Mu'minun 23.18, where it mentions Allah sending down rain in due measure.
In due measure. I love that.
It's such a powerful concept because it shows that this distribution of water is thoughtful. It's not just random.
It's for a purpose.
Exactly, to support all forms of life.
Like this system of checks and balances.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure water is available where it's needed.
Right, it's essential for the balance of ecosystems.
And this precision is even evident in the specific process of how rain forms.
Right.
Like, how is that even possible? The Quran predates modern meteorology.
It's incredible, isn't it?
And there are verses that talk about this.
Oh, yes. Surah Ar-Rum 30.48 and Surah An-Nahl 24.43.
Okay, what do they say?
They mention winds driving the clouds and then rain forming within them.
Wow. It's like the Quran is giving us a glimpse into the mechanics of Allah's creation.
It really is. Think about
It's
it.
amazing how it captures these complex meteorological events that we've only come to fully understand through modern science.
It's a testament to the Quran's divine origin, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And speaking of fascinating phenomena, your research also delves into where rivers meet the sea.
Oh, yeah, that's one of my favorite parts.
It's so intriguing.
And the Quran mentions this too.
Yes, it does, in Surah Al-Rahman 55.1920 and Surah Al-Furqan 25.53.
Okay, and what do those verses say?
They talk about a barrier between these two types of water.
A barrier.
Yeah, a barrier.
I wonder what that could refer to.
Well, think about it. It perfectly aligns with our modern understanding of estuaries.
Estuary.
Yeah, those areas where fresh water and salt water meet. But they don't completely mix because of their different densities.
Oh, right, because salt water is denser.
Exactly. So it's like there's this invisible barrier maintaining a balance between them.
Wow, the Quran predates our understanding of estuaries by centuries.
I know, it's mind-boggling, isn't it?
It's a testament to the depth of knowledge contained within its verses.
Absolutely.
And speaking of knowledge, let's dive into the science behind water itself.
Okay, let's do it.
We often think of water as this simple substance, but it's so much more than that.
It really is. Its molecular structure is what gives it those remarkable properties.
Okay, so let's break it down. We've got two hydrogen atoms bonded to one oxygen atom.
Right, H2O.
But what's so special about that arrangement?
Yeah.
What makes it so unique?
It's all about the shape and the way those atoms interact. You see, the hydrogen atoms are bonded to the oxygen atom at an angle,
Okay.
giving the water molecule a bent shape.
A bent shape, okay.
And that, along with the fact that oxygen attracts electrons more strongly than hydrogen, creates a polar molecule.
Polar molecule. Okay, so what does that even mean?
Think of it like a tiny magnet.
Okay, I'm listening.
The oxygen end of the molecule has a slight negative charge,
Got it.
and the hydrogen end has a slight positive charge.
So positive on one end, negative on the other.
Exactly. And this polarity is what gives water its incredible ability to dissolve so many substances.
So it's like a tiny magnet attracting other molecules.
You got it. Making it an excellent solvent.
Oh, right, which is why it's called the universal solvent.
Exactly.
So is that also why water has such a high melting and boiling point?
You're on a roll.
Compared to other similar molecules, it takes a lot of energy to change its state.
It does. And you're right. Those strong hydrogen bonds between water molecules are the reason for that.
So the bonds are super strong.
It takes a lot of heat energy to break them and cause water to melt or boil.
Wow, so those tiny bonds are what make water so resilient.
They really are. And they play a role in another fascinating property of water.
Oh, which one?
Ice.
Ice?
Yeah, it's fascinating how water expands when it freezes, making ice less dense than liquid water.
That's why ice floats.
Yeah.
Right.
Precisely.
But why does it expand? I mean, most things contract when they freeze.
It's all about those hydrogen bonds again.
Those bonds, they're everywhere.
As water cools below 4 degrees Celsius, those bonds become more rigid and form this crystalline structure, pushing the molecules slightly further apart.
So instead of getting closer, they get farther apart.
Exactly. And this expansion lowers the density of ice, allowing it to float on liquid water.
Wow, so that's like a built-in design feature.
It is. It's amazing, isn't it?
Like imagine if ice sank.
Lakes and ponds would freeze from the bottom up,
But
threatening all the aquatic life.
But because ice floats, it acts as an insulator,
Exactly.
protecting the water below.
Allowing life to thrive even in freezing temperatures.
It's like a built-in safety mechanism.
It really is.
A testament to, the incredible design of Allah's creation.
A perfect example.
And speaking design, those hydrogen bonds, They're also responsible for another remarkable property,
Which is?
surface tension.
Yes, surface tension.
It's like a skin on the surface of the water.
Exactly. Those hydrogen bonds create this strong, cohesive force between water molecules.
Holding them together?
Right, allowing objects like insects to walk on water.
Oh, right, like water striders.
Exactly, or water droplets to beat up on a leaf.
It's amazing how these, tiny forces at the molecular level give rise to these visible phenomena.
It really is, and it's all connected to the fact that water can exist in 3 different states.
Solid, liquid, gas.
Exactly, solid as ice, liquid as water, and gas as water vapor.
And each state plays a role.
Oh, a vital role.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. Think about it. We've got steam powering turbines,
Right.
rain nourishing the earth, and ice caps reflecting sunlight to help regulate global temperatures.
It's amazing how versatile water is.
It is, isn't it?
And it really highlights the intricate interconnectedness of Allah's creation.
It's all connected.
And speaking of interconnectedness, let's talk about the water cycle
Right, the continuous flow of water.
between the Earth's surface and the atmosphere.
The water cycle is a perfect example of how Allah has designed this system for continuous renewal and balance.
It's like a giant natural purification system.
You could say that,
And this whole idea of purity brings us to another point.
which is,
The difference between the water we find in nature and pure water.
right, pure water in a scientific sense refers to H2O in its purest form without any dissolved substances.
But the water we encounter in nature, it's rarely, if ever, pure, right?
It's true, it usually contains dissolved minerals, salts, other impurities.
So what makes pure water so unique? I mean, is it just the absence of those impurities?
Well, that's part of it, but pure water also exhibits certain properties that distinguish it from water containing impurities.
Like what?
Its ability to dissolve substances is even more pronounced.
Ah, so it's an even better solvent than regular water.
You could say that it can dissolve a wide range of substances, both electrolytes, which break down into ions when dissolved,
Okay.
and non-electrolytes, which maintain their molecular structure in solution.
Electrolytes and non-electrolytes. Okay, you're going to have to break those down for me.
All right, so think of electrolytes as substances that conduct electricity when dissolved in water, like salts.
That's salts, okay.
Non-electrolytes, on the other hand, don't conduct electricity when dissolved, like sugar.
Sugar, got it.
This distinction is important because it affects how different substances interact with water and how they're transported within living organisms.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So this dissolving power of water, while crucial for life, also makes it vulnerable to pollution.
That's a good point. Yeah, if it can dissolve good things, it can dissolve bad things too.
Exactly, and that's a big problem we're facing today.
Water pollution.
It compromises water quality and poses significant threats to human health and the environment.
Your research highlights so many different sources of pollution.
It's a long list, unfortunately.
Industrial waste, sewage, agricultural runoff.
And urban stormwater runoff, oil spills, the list goes on.
It's overwhelming, honestly.
It can be, but it's important to understand the scope of the problem.
So let's break it down, starting with industrial waste.
All right, so industrial waste often contains heavy metals,
Which are?
like lead, mercury, arsenic,
Toxic stuff.
very toxic and harmful chemicals, and even thermal pollutants that can disrupt aquatic ecosystems.
So it's not just about the chemicals themselves.
Oh, it's also about the temperature of the water,
Okay, and then there's sewage and wastewater from households.
which, if not properly treated, can contaminate water sources with pathogens.
Pathogens meaning.
Bacteria, viruses, microorganisms that can cause diseases,
Right, and excess nutrients.
which can lead to those harmful algal blooms we talked about earlier.
It's like a domino effect.
It is. One thing leads to another.
And agricultural runoff is another major contributor.
Absolutely. Fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, all those chemicals used in farming can wash into waterways,
Leading to,
imbalances in ecosystems and potential health risks.
it's like even activities that seem far removed from water bodies can ultimately impact their quality.
It's all connected, remember.
And then there's oil pollution,
One of the most devastating forms of contamination.
usually caused by
Spills from tankers or drilling operations.
those images of oil-soaked birds and marine life are just heartbreaking.
They are. It's a stark reminder of the damage we can inflict on Allah's creation.
It really makes you think about our responsibility to protect this precious resource.
It should.
But it's not just like large-scale industrial activities that contribute to water pollution.
No, 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 no.
Even our everyday actions in urban areas can have an impact.
You're absolutely right. Think about all the pollutants that can be carried by stormwater runoff.
Stormwater runoff.
Yeah, the water that flows over streets, parking lots, construction sites.
Okay.
It picks up all sorts of stuff: oil, grease, fertilizers, pesticides, litter, you name it.
And it all ends up in our waterways.
Unfortunately, yes.
So it really is a collective responsibility.
It is. We all need to be mindful of our actions and how they might affect the quality of our water.
Okay, but before we get into solutions, let's talk about the different types of water pollution.
All right, what are you thinking?
Specifically, point source and non-point source pollution.
That's an important distinction, yes.
So what's the difference?
Point source pollution comes from a single identifiable source,
Okay.
like a factory discharge pipe or a sewage treatment plant.
So we know exactly where it's coming from.
Exactly. It's easier to track and regulate because of that.
And non-point source pollution.
It comes from diffuse sources, making it much harder to pinpoint and control.
Like what?
Think about agricultural runoff from multiple fields,
Okay.
or stormwater runoff from an entire city.
So it's a collective contribution from various sources.
Exactly. It's much more challenging to manage.
But understanding this distinction is crucial for developing effective solutions, right?
Absolutely. We need to know where the pollution is coming from to address it properly.
But regardless of the source, the impacts of pollution can be devastating.
They are, and they affect not just human health, but also biodiversity and the environment as a whole.
Let's start with the impacts on human health.
All right, so contaminated water can lead to a whole host of waterborne diseases.
Like what?
Cholera, typhoid, dysentery, to name a few.
Those are serious illnesses.
They can be, especially in areas with inadequate sanitation and limited access to clean drinking water.
And it's not just about those, like, acute illnesses, right?
No, long-term exposure to pollutants in water can lead to chronic health problems as well.
So we're talking about things like heavy metals and certain chemicals that can accumulate in our bodies over time.
Exactly. Some pollutants can affect our nervous system,
Okay.
our reproductive system,
Wow.
and even increase the risk of certain cancers.
It's scary to think about.
It is, and it's not just humans who suffer.
Right. Water pollution also has devastating impacts on ecosystems and biodiversity.
It disrupts the balance of entire ecosystems, leading to a loss of species and a decline in overall environmental health.
Can you give me some specific examples of how pollution affects plant and animal life?
For starters, it can lead to oxygen depletion in water bodies.
Oxygen depletion.
Yeah, which suffocates fish and other aquatic organisms.
Oh, wow. That's awful.
And then there are excess nutrients from agricultural runoff.
Uh-huh.
Those can cause algal blooms.
Right, which blocks sunlight and disrupt the balance of the ecosystem,
Exactly. And those algal blooms can produce toxins.
which harm marine life.
Right. Some algal toxins can accumulate in shellfish and other seafood, making them unsafe for human consumption.
That's really dangerous,
And then there are pollutants like heavy metals.
which we talked about earlier.
They can accumulate in the food chain, poisoning animals at higher trophic levels.
So like a small fish eats some contaminated algae, then bigger fish eats that fish.
And so on until you have top predators with high levels of toxins in their bodies.
It's a ripple effect that disrupts entire ecosystems.
It is, and ultimately, it threatens the delicate balance of Allah's creation.
And let's not forget about the long-term environmental damage.
Right, water pollution can alter the chemical composition of water,
Okay.
affect sediment quality,
Uh-huh.
and even contribute to climate change through the release of greenhouse gases from polluted water bodies.
Wow. It's just a reminder that the consequences of our actions extend far beyond our immediate surroundings.
They do. They can have lasting impacts on the planet.
It's a sobering thought, but it's also a call to action.
It is. We need to be stewards of this precious resource that Allah has entrusted to us.
So what can we do? What steps can we take to protect our water resources and ensure clean water for future generations?
That's the big question. And the good news is that there are solutions.
There are.
Yes, and they involve actions at all levels: individual, social, and governmental.
Let's start with individual actions. Like, what can we do in our daily lives to make a difference?
Conserving water is a fundamental step.
Okay, so like what? Turning off the tap when we brush our teeth?
That's a good start. We can also install water-efficient appliances, fix leaks promptly, and be conscious of our water usage in our daily routines.
So, like, taking shorter showers.
Exactly. Watering our lawns efficiently.
Okay, so little things can add up.
They really can. Every little bit helps.
What else?
We can be mindful of what we pour down the drain
Okay.
and how we dispose of waste.
Like,
Avoid pouring harmful chemicals, oils, or medications down the sink or toilet.
and properly dispose of hazardous waste.
Exactly.
What about, like, cleaning products?
Opt for environmentally friendly cleaning products and personal care items that minimize chemical runoff.
So read the labels carefully.
Another important step is reducing our reliance on single-use plastics.
Which often end up polluting our oceans.
Exactly. They can harm marine life and take hundreds of years to decompose.
So making conscious choices in our daily lives can have a real impact on the health of our water resources.
Absolutely. It's about adopting a mindset of stewardship and recognizing that our actions have consequences for the environment.
But individual actions alone are not enough, right?
You're right. We also need collective efforts at the social and governmental levels.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Community education and awareness campaigns play a vital role in promoting water conservation and pollution prevention.
So it's about educating people about the importance of protecting water resources.
And empowering them with the knowledge and tools to make a difference.
What about governmental actions? Like, what role do policies and regulations play in addressing water pollution?
Governmental actions are essential for implementing effective solutions on a larger scale.
Can you give me some examples?
We need stricter regulations on industrial discharges,
Okay.
investments in advanced wastewater treatment technologies, and enforcement of environmental laws.
To hold polluters accountable.
Exactly. Promoting sustainable agricultural practices that minimize runoff and protect water quality is also crucial.
And what about supporting research into innovative solutions for water management?
Absolutely, and investing in water infrastructure.
So it's about creating a comprehensive framework that addresses the root causes of water pollution.
And ensures the long-term health of our water resources.
This has been really eye-opening.
It's a complex issue, but there's hope.
There is.
Absolutely. If we work together, we can make a difference.
I like that. A message of hope.
It's important to stay positive and proactive.
Now, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll dive into some specific solutions for addressing water pollution.
Sounds good to me. So we're talking about this framework, right? Addressing the root causes of water pollution.
Yeah, and ensuring clean water for everyone.
It's a huge challenge.
It is, but I think it's important to remember that, protecting water is also deeply rooted in our faith.
Absolutely. It's a responsibility entrusted to us by Allah.
And the Quran actually provides a lot of guidance on this.
It does. It highlights the importance of water as a creation of Allah.
And emphasizes the need to protect and preserve it.
Exactly.
So let's go back to the Quran for a minute.
Oh.
What verses come to mind when we talk about water and its significance?
Well, we talked about Surah Al-Anbiya 21.30, right? The one about Allah creating every living thing from water.
Right, that's a powerful one.
And there are others that talk about the water cycle, like Surah Al-Hajj 22.63, Surah Ar-Rum 30.48, and Surah Al-Zukhruf 43.11.
Oh yeah, the ones that describe rain coming down from the sky, giving life to the land.
Exactly. They paint such a vivid picture of the water cycle, evaporation, condensation, precipitation, infiltration.
It's incredible how the Quran captures these processes so accurately.
And it doesn't just describe the science, it emphasizes the balance and precision involved.
Right, like in Surah Al-Mu'minun 23.18, where it talks about Allah sending down rain in due measure.
Exactly, in due measure. It's such a beautiful phrase. It highlights the wisdom behind Allah's design.
It's like every drop of rain is accounted for,
It's distributed thoughtfully to support all forms of life.
And this precision, it's even evident in how rain forms.
Right, those verses that mention winds driving clouds and then rain forming within them, like Surah Ar-Rum 30.48 and Surah An-Nahl 24.43.
It's amazing how the Quran, revealed centuries ago, captures these complex meteorological events.
I know. It aligns perfectly with our modern understanding of how weather patterns and atmospheric conditions influence rainfall.
It's a testament to the Quran's divine origin, isn't it?
It really is. It's like a glimpse into the secrets of the natural world.
And another example that always blows my mind is the Quran's description of where rivers meet the sea.
Oh, yes. Those verses about a barrier between two types of water.
Surah Al-Rahman 55.1920 and Surah Al-Furqan 25.53.
It's fascinating because it predates our scientific understanding of estuaries.
You know those areas where fresh water and salt water meet?
But don't fully mix because of their different densities.
It's like the Quran is hinting at a scientific principle that wouldn't be fully grasped for centuries.
I know, it's incredible, right? The concept of a barrier preventing complete mixing, it's right there in those verses.
It's a testament to the depth of knowledge and wisdom contained within the Quran.
It really is.
And, it highlights this idea of balance and separation, even within something as seemingly uniform as water.
Like there's this order, this design, even in the smallest details of creation.
It's a reminder that Allah's creation is full of wonders.
And that we have a responsibility to protect it.
Absolutely.
So from the grand water cycle to the specific phenomenon of estuaries, the Quran offers this perspective that, it complements and enriches our scientific understanding.
It's a reminder that exploring Allah's creation through both faith and science can deepen our appreciation for its wonders.
And that's a beautiful message to convey through your YouTube channel, showcasing that harmony between the Quran's descriptions and scientific discoveries.
Yeah, like inspiring viewers to ponder the majesty of Allah's creation.
Exactly, and the interconnectedness of all things.
This has been so insightful. I think it's given me a really solid foundation for my video.
And remember, this is just the beginning of your exploration. Water offers endless avenues for discovery.
It does, doesn't it?
So as you embark on creating your video about water as Allah's creation, let that sense of wonder and interconnectedness guide you.
I will.
Share the beauty and wisdom of Allah's creation with the world.
That's the goal.
And never stop learning and exploring. There's always more to discover within a single drop of water.
You're right. There's so much more to learn.
There is, and I'm excited to see what you create.
This has been an amazing deep dive. Thank you for joining us on this journey of exploring water as a testament to Allah's creation.
It's amazing, right, how, all this talk about protecting water brings us back to the Quran.
It's true. There really is this beautiful harmony between what the Quran describes and what science has revealed, especially about water.
It's almost poetic the way, verses like Surah Al-Hajj 22.63 and Surah Ar-Rum 30.48.
And Surah Al-Zukhruf 43.11.
Yeah, 43.11, how they talk about rain coming down, giving life to everything.
Replenishing the earth. It's like it really captures that cycle, doesn't it? Like evaporation, condensation, precipitation.
And infiltration, all those stages.
It's almost like, the Quran is giving us this sneak peek into how it all works.
Into the mechanics of Allah's creation.
And what's even more incredible is how the Quran doesn't just describe it, but it really emphasizes this balance.
Right, the precision of it all.
Yeah, like in Surah Al-Mu'minun 23.18, where it mentions Allah sending down rain in due measure.
In due measure. That's such a powerful phrase.
It is. It makes you think about how it's not just abundant, but it's distributed so thoughtfully.
Right, supporting ecosystems, agriculture, human life.
This speaks to the wisdom behind it all,
Absolutely. Allah's design is so intricate.
And this precision, you see it even in how rain forms.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it.
Like Surah Ar-Rum 30.48 and Surah An-Nahl 24.43.
Those are the ones.
The ones that talk about the winds and the clouds, and then boom, rain.
It's amazing how these verses, revealed so long ago, capture what we now understand about these events, these meteorological events.
Right, like the winds transport moisture, leading to condensation.
Forming those rain clouds.
It's like, the Quran is unveiling these secrets of the natural world.
And it all aligns with what we know through science, how weather patterns and atmospheric conditions affect rainfall.
It's really a testament to the Quran's insights, its divine insights.
I completely agree.
And, another one that always gets me is how the Quran describes where rivers meet the sea.
Ah, yes, those verses about a barrier.
Right. Like Surah Ar-Rahman 55.1920 and Surah Al-Furqan 25.53.
Talking about these two types of water.
And how they don't just completely mix.
It's fascinating because we know now about estuaries, right?
Yeah, where freshwater meets saltwater.
But they don't fully blend because of the different densities.
It's like the Quran was hinting at this scientific principle way before we even understood it.
Centuries before.
It's just incredible, right? This idea of a barrier, it's right there in the verses.
It really speaks to the depth of knowledge within the Quran.
And it emphasizes this idea of balance and separation, even within something like water.
There's this order, this design, even at that level.
There's from the big picture of the water cycle to this specific thing with estuaries, the Quran gives us this perspective that adds to what we know through science.
It really does. It's like exploring Allah's creation through faith and through science. They can go hand in hand.
It deepens our appreciation,
Absolutely. And that's such a beautiful message to share on your channel.
It is.
To show that harmony between the Quran and scientific discoveries.
And to make people think. to ponder the majesty of Allah's creation.
The interconnectedness of it all.
This deep dive has been honestly so helpful. It's given me a really solid starting point for my video.
I'm glad to hear that.
And it's true. This is just the beginning.
Oh, there's so much more to explore. Water is endlessly fascinating.
It really is.
So as you create your video, remember that sense of wonder, that interconnectedness.
I will.
Share that beauty, share that wisdom of Allah's creation with the world.
I'll do my best.
And never stop learning. Keep exploring. There's always something new to discover, even in a single drop of water.
You're right. There's always more to learn.
Always.
This has been amazing. Really, thank you for joining me on this journey, exploring water as this testament to Allah's creation.
It's been a pleasure.
And thank you to all our listeners for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.